Hey guys, Level Cap here, and today we're going to talk about the first expansion for Battlefield 1. EA has released a bunch of concept art and some details regarding this first DLC, and it's called They Shall Not Pass. That's my Gandalf for you. And then, of course, this expansion is coming out in March 2017. People with Premium will get it a little bit earlier than everybody else. March does seem like a little ways away. Maybe it wouldn't feel like it was so long if Battlefield 1 had a really good and fun progression system, but since it doesn't, it does seem like a bit of a ways to wait. I know it's only like three-ish months away, but the maps do look pretty cool, and the concept behind it sounds pretty cool. For those of you who have been wanting to see a little bit more of the trenches, myself included, this expansion seems like it's going to be catering perfectly to everybody in that camp. Not only are we getting the French as a new faction to play, but we're also getting some maps that are going to revolve around the Battle of Verdun, which was one of the longest and most bloody battles of the entire war. It's going to feature charred landscapes, muddy trenches, and also some close quarter fighting. I don't know if that's all going to be on one map or spread throughout the different maps coming. This concept art here shows the forest fires that were created in the opening barrage of the Battle of Verdun, in which 1 million shells were fired, and that caught a whole bunch of forests on fire. So people were fighting through these forest fires. This looks absolutely incredible, fighting sort of a trench forest fire mixed fight here. Absolutely insane visually. Then I believe this concept here is showing off the village of Savino. Basically, after the opening attacks of Verdun, a lot of villages and towns were just absolutely decimated, including the forest themselves. So the no man's land that we talk about and sort of see in old war films, that stuff actually used to be towns or villages or forests that absolutely just got pummeled from the massive quantities of artillery. So you see the remains of what looks like a church there, and then the giant forest fire raging in the background. This could be a different map from the one that we saw before, or it could be the same one. Either way, the visuals are very, very impactful. This next concept here shows some close quarter indoor fighting in the tunnels and hallways of Fort Vaux. This was a fort that was sort of caught up in the middle of the Battle of Verdun, defended and then captured at different points during the war, but the tunnels basically remained intact even after the intense artillery shelling because a lot of them were subterranean, so capturing the fort proved to be incredibly difficult and bloody. Some very noteworthy engagements of the war took place surrounding this fort, and I believe the fort now has actually been turned into a museum that you can check out if you're ever in France. I think a lot of people were drawing similarities between the look of this map and, say, Operation Lockers from Battlefield 4, and I wouldn't be surprised if the gameplay was very similar. Now, during the Battle of Verdun, 40 million artillery shells were fired, which basically turned the landscape into this just crater-like environment. Almost looks like a different planet, basically. And this concept here is supposed to show off some of that trench warfare in just an absolutely obliterated landscape, but apparently there's also going to be some tunnel systems and even underground forts mixed in here. So it won't just be the trenches, but some of the interconnected tunnel networks as well. Now, aside from the Battle of Verdun, this concept art here may be of the Battle of Soissons, which was a huge battle towards the end of the war in 1918. And the map itself is going to focus on some of the larger tank pushes of the war, French tank pushes of the war. This was a huge battle. Again, some of the technology at this point was a bit more advanced compared to the beginning of the war, at least better implemented at this point. And crazy fact about this war is that Hitler was actually fighting in this battle, and he was awarded the Iron Cross. The map will also focus on some of the more strategic bridges during the battle, so there may be some rivers and bridge crossings that need to happen in order to take ground. Now, there's also an interesting little blurb accompanying this map description that says, "Something big lurks around the village of Fismus." I would imagine this is sort of alluding to some sort of new behemoth weapon that we're going to see in this DLC. People on Reddit are speculating that it could be the K-Wagen, which is one of the biggest tanks ever designed and almost finished during the war. It could also be some giant artillery cannons that were rumored to be upcoming behemoths in future DLC, and those could still be in this DLC. We could see multiple kinds of behemoths become available, especially during the trench warfare when we might not be as expecting to see something like an airship flying over the trenches. Maybe it'll just be super artillery cannons or some of these super tanks that were designed and almost completed during the war. Anyway, I'm really excited for this first DLC. I think DICE is taking advantage of many of the things that were most requested to see for Battlefield 1. So this first DLC could go a big step into increasing the kind of content that a lot of people have wanted to see. Granted, since it is DLC content, it's only going to be available to people who buy the DLC or have premium accounts, which is a smaller quantity of players than people who have the vanilla version of the game. So we'll have to wait and see what happens over time. But as usually does occur with Battlefield titles, as the DLC content becomes harder and harder and harder to play, the more time that goes on as less servers are running that content. Either way, though, I am still excited for it, and we are going to be getting some new weapons for infantry and other stuff like that that will carry over into the vanilla version. Also, if you haven't noticed yet, there's a few hidden PC codes for Battlefield 1 at the very bottom of this video description. Hopefully they're not all taken by the time you hear this. But either way, happy holidays, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.